Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, The Novel Nana. I'm Bex. Today is part 3 of the video series all about them betas. Now, if you've watched video 2, then you know what today's topic is. It's going to be all about the beta process. So for me, my experience with betas kind of had some good experience and bad experience along my own journey, but I did learn something that I would like to share with you today. And that was more of the positive aspect of the beta reading process. So the first thing I did was gather betas. At this point, I had just kind of put out my feelers on social media, let everyone know that I had written a manuscript, and that I was in the process of looking for potential betas to read for me. In that, I was able to get quite a few responses right away, and I knew that I didn't want to just accept any old betas, so I put together a list of what I expected out of betas. So for one, my criteria was I wanted to have basically a mix of both gender, age, and genre-specific beta readers. I wanted to have beta readers that read both in the genre that I was writing and outside of that genre. I wanted to try to give myself as much as possible, the best mixture, I guess, to try to see what would be a commonality, I guess, between this range of people, to show me what was really sticking out, as something that I needed to work on for my manuscript. So after that, I chose the betas that I wanted for my story. And at that time, I think I had chose like 15 to 20. I know that's a large pool, and you may not need that many. I kind of went overboard. But I did use an extra 5 betas on the back burner. And I did this for the reason that, I had already done a little bit of research and realized that some beta readers, life happens or whatever, some betas just were not able to fulfill the commitment that they had made. So in doing that, I also weeded out some of the other betas that, well, we'll get into that in just a second, but basically it was a list that I had sent out, and I had them, fill out this list and let me know via email if they were still interested in becoming a beta. And mostly that was because of the subject matter of my book at that time. The genre that I was writing in was a psychological thriller. And it had some very sensitive, almost trigger type things in it, or could be considered triggers for some people that have suffered abuse. So with that being said, what helped me in my beta process was to send out a beta packet. Now, this is not a requirement. By no means do you have to do this, but this is what worked for me. So today in this video, I'm going to share with you some of the things that worked for me in the beta process and other things that didn't go so well. But if you have that backup of, 3 to 5 extra betas, just kind of on hold to let them know, if someone should drop out for whatever reason, would you be able, or would you still be interested in reading this story in this allotted amount of time? So I had my backups. And so before I sent out the manuscript, I put together a beta packet with the help of a couple of my friends. And they were so helpful in doing this for me because I was not a tech person. Still I'm not, but I'm getting better. Anywho, the beta packets that we sent out had a few things in them. 1, we had sent out a welcome letter. 2, we had sent out a explanation of the rounds, and then 3, we sent out a warning disclaimer. Now, after they had read the warning disclaimer, sorry, I'm trying to search for this real quick over here so I can kind of show you what I'm talking about. So this is what we had sent out to my betas. And this is before the, I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is, but it was basically I sent out to all the betas the same thing before I let them commit to being a beta, because I wanted them to know what they were in for. So this was part of the beta packet. It's a warning and disclaimer. I'll read you a few. This may not apply to your book, but you could adjust and, make it more specific to whatever genre you're writing in. So for mine, my book was called Papa's Playthings. That was the series name. And it was book 1, Shattered Doll, that I was doing the beta reading process for, or looking for betas for that. So basically it just says, please be advised, this book contains sensitive subject matter that at times may include sexual, verbal, physical, psychological abuse towards minors. There's also brief graphic scenes, swear words, violence, drug and alcohol abuse, sensitive thematic elements such as rape, murder, and child abduction. This work of fiction is not for anyone under the age of 18. The genre classification is psychological suspense thriller. Decide now if you want to proceed. So I really feel like in this day and age especially, we have a lot of people, a lot of bad things have happened in the world, and, people come from all walks of life. Everybody goes through their own traumatic things. A lot of people have PTSD. And in this day and age, it just seems like the world is getting worse and worse and worse. And that's not funny by no means. But my point was that, in this day and age where everyone is offended, by anything and everything, not to say that there isn't general good reasons to be offended at certain things, but to me, this is only my opinion. Please don't send me any hate. But to me, everybody has a right to their own opinion. And, it may not be the popular opinion. And I'm not out to offend anyone by any means. But I grew up in a different time, a different age, where, I don't know, things were more black and white, cut and dry. There wasn't so much of as it is now, but I'm totally getting off topic. So let me circle back around here. But pretty much to cover your own booty, okay? It would be wise, especially if your book happens to deal with anything that could be found offensive or even triggering. So for me, what I did was send out the warning and disclaimer with the welcome beta packet, and let them know that, hey, it's okay. This is what's in the book. If this is something you're not comfortable with moving forward, then, please just let me know and we can drop you as a beta. Because I didn't want to hurt anyone. I didn't want to trigger anyone. And I certainly wasn't out to offend anyone, or cause them any, psychological harm or damage. So, that being said, after our betas received the disclaimer, we left it up to them as to when, if they wanted to continue beta reading for this specific book. Now, a lot of people, I know, do send out like synopsis and things like that. I cannot remember if I actually sent out a synopsis, but I did send out the warning and disclaimer to let people know, because I had a lot of people interested in being betas before they even knew what they would be beta reading for. And so during that process, I did want to make sure that, I checked all the boxes, because I really wanted to get the best possible beta readers for my story. And part of that was, not letting them go in so blind to what they would be reading. And I did have a few beta readers drop out after they received their beta packet with the warning and disclaimer letter inside. And that was totally fine. That's what the warning and disclaimer is for, to let a reader know that, hey, if you're not comfortable with these things, reading about these things, that's totally okay. I would rather you let me know up front so I can replace you with one of the backup betas, that these things weren't an issue for them. That way it wouldn't stop the beta process for me, because I wanted to make sure that the betas that signed up knew exactly what they were in for. Next on the beta packet was, let's see, I do have one of the welcome letters. So this was just an example of what mine looked like, which was Papa's Playthings, Shattered Doll. That was book 1. So basically, it's just an example. You could fill in your own information and whatnot with a link to whatever platform that they would report their feedback to, whether that be email or text message or phone or whatever you decide. But for mine, it was just basically a little letter that said, "Welcome, book lovers. Thank you for your interest in becoming a beta reader." And it kind of told them a little bit about the book. It did let them know that the book was actually geared for readers 18 years of age and up. Also, that there was, sensitive subject matter. It goes on to say that, please read the warning and disclaimer page before signing on as a beta, just so they could be aware, Anyway, so that was basically it. I let them know what was to be expected in their packet, what each piece of, or each document in the packet, what it was for. Just kind of, helping them decide if they really truly wanted to do this, because I knew that it was going to be a big commitment. Anyway, so I just let them know that, hey, if there's any time that you need clarification, please contact the email address for help. The feedback that you will give will greatly contribute to any future revisions. Then answer the following questionnaire after each chapter you receive, and please answer as honestly as you can. And then I thanked them for becoming a beta reader and told them I was looking forward to reading their thoughts. So, and then it was sincerely the author and the creative team behind it. Anyway, so that was the welcome letter for my beta packet. And then I had the overall, this was just the general part of the packet, just letting them know that this was only volume 1 or book 1 in the whole series, and they were allowed to opt out after this book, or they could press the continue or check the continue box to let me, for them to let me know that they would be interested in beta reading for the next book in the series. And I found that very helpful. So if y'all can use that, great. Modify it to your specifications, and I hope that helps. The next thing in the beta packet was an all about the betas. So these are just generally things, to help you decide about which betas you would like. So my process, they would put their name, they would mark their age. Can you guys see that right there? So there's an age group. It's like 18 to 25, 25 to 30. Wow, you really can't see that. 30 to 35, 40 to 45, and then 45 to 45 plus. And then I asked if they were male or female, genres that they like to read in, if they were a first-time beta or if they had betaed before. I asked for their email address, and if they were available for phone interviews, yes or no. Then, fill in your phone number. Preferred method to provide feedback by phone, by email, or by social media, or correspondence by mail. So they had choices, in the beta process, screening process. And that's what I used my beta packet for, was to really screen all the betas and find out which betas would best serve my purpose at that time. So then I also put in the beta terminology and definitions, because some people have not beta read before, and so there was some terms that they may not be familiar with. So I wanted to make sure that I did give them that. And these were just general terms. My beta packet just said, or this page anyway, for terminology, just said you're going to find a list of terms and definitions that will help you in the feedback process. The questions you're going to be answering after each chapter center on these particular elements. Most of you already know the terms and their definitions, but if you are new to beta reading, we are hoping this page will be helpful. Thank you again for beta reading, and we look forward to hearing from your thoughts. Happy reading. So I listed the terms on the side. They are antagonist, character development, climax, conflict, falling action, foreshadowing, info dump, narrative, obstacles, plot holes, plot twist, POV, protagonist, resolve, rising action, settings, subplots, and show don't tell. And then they were given a brief definition of what these words meant, to kind of help them when I asked for very specific things concerning the chapters that they did receive. So along with the beta packet, they also got this, which basically gives them a list of everything that was in the beta packet. So for instance, they would get a welcome letter, the beta all about you form, then they would get the explanation and expectation form, then they would get the warning and disclaimer, terms and conditions contract, beta terminology and definition sheet, feedback, email and passphrase, synopsis and prologue, and then a question and comment. So that's one of them. And then also I went a little step further, explaining the terms and conditions to be in a beta reader for me. So mine, as you can tell, was very detailed. Now, you don't have to send out a beta packet if you don't desire to do so. It's not a requirement, but I have found that it really helped me to weed out, the betas that really were probably going to drop out anyway, because I didn't want anyone going in blind and then cutting halfway through the process, because I desperately needed that feedback. And so I wanted to let them know what they were in for and what exactly was expected of them as a beta reader. So you may have different expectations depending on your preferences and what you're looking for generally for the feedback from your betas. So again, this is just my opinion and what I did, what worked for me. So this was a beta terms and condition sheet, and it said, first and foremost, I would like to thank you for the interest in messaging me to become a beta reader. Then I gave them the email link that they could contact me to let me know, to fill out their questionnaire, and then, contact me and let me know if they were still in or not. Okay, so a lot of people do beta, their beta process differently. Now, what worked for me was sending it out in rounds, and I was very specific as to what I needed from each beta and what I needed out of each round of, the rounds of sending out different chapters or whatnot. Now, you can adapt this, change it, do whatever you need to do to make it work best for you. But what I found was, really just explaining to the beta, so there is no confusion, what was expected of them and what would be acceptable and what would kind of be frowned upon by me. So anyway, then we were given, or I gave out explanations of rounds. So in my case, my book, I had written pretty much a series. It wasn't quite finished, but after that, I had decided to divide it up into shorter chunks, like book 1, book 2, book 3, and so on. For book 1, Shattered Doll, I only sent out chapters that I knew I had issues with. The chapters that, I was either at a crossroads, not sure as to which road for my character to take to really take the story to the next level, to really make it good and solid, and to be true to the character. I've read a lot of books, and there's been times where I look at the protagonist and I see the journey that they're on, and then out of the blue, they make some, crackpot decision that really doesn't go with the character that's been laid out, or their traits anyway, and personality that's been laid out or fleshed out beforehand, and it totally contradicts who they are as a character. So I didn't want that for my book. So I wanted to make sure that the characters stayed true to themselves throughout the series and throughout the book. So I was really careful about what I expected out of my readers, and I was really careful about what I sent. So at that time, I was a little more naive. I really honestly was scared that, that they might be able to steal my story somehow. I wasn't aware that once you have written a book, it's already automatically copywritten. We'll get into that in another video. But for the sake of this video, I will let you know that I did only send out chunks of the book. And depending on which round of betas I was in, for the first round, all the people that were in the first pool of betas only received a random chapter draw. So there would be, well, let me look at the explanations. It's been a while, guys. So in the first round, the first round was a few random chapters. Once they had finished reading them, they were to email their thoughts, feedback, and initial reaction to the overall content they had read. Once they had done that and were ready to proceed, I would then email them the next set of chapters. And with each chapter that I sent out, I did have a questionnaire at the end of each chapter for them to fill out. And I had very specific questions that only pertain to that chapter, not the overall book, not the overall content, but specifically for that chapter. And I found that very helpful because then you're not getting just a generalization of, hey, I liked the book, or hey, I wasn't too fond of it. You really want to get the most out of your feedback. So really directing them into a certain direction, making sure that you are putting out there like, hey, I need to know this, this, and this. What are your thoughts on this, this, and this? The more specific you are, the better usable, is that even like correct? No, that's so not correct. Okay, anyway, sorry guys. But anyway, the more specific you are, I find that it really helps with the type of feedback you get. And if you keep a questionnaire on hand for them, they know what's expected out of their feedback. They don't have to just ramble on. They have kind of a guide to help them with their feedback and what information and thoughts that they provide. So that really helped. And in the second round, they were sent to those betas, they were sent chapters in sequential order. They were not sent whole chapters per se, not all of them. Some were only sent the main event, if you will, of the chapter, and they did not receive it in context because there were very specific things about the portion that they received that I was needing their feedback on. So some of them were not receiving full chapters. But in the second round, I did send out to those round of betas sequential order chapters. So these chapters were in sequential order, and they would give a little more information than the previous round of chapters. And then again, I asked them for their overall feedback, answer the questionnaire, and then email me back their initial thoughts. So, and then the third round, they were given a mix of chapters. Now, this was the final round of chapters that went out to my betas, and it was really kind of a hodgepodge, Some of them received, say, chapters 3 through 9. Some received, chapters 1 through 3, or chapters 10 through 12. I did this in different rounds and in different beta groups because I really wanted to get the most out of my beta process. So with that being said, I did, for the first couple of rounds, they were not checking for spelling, punctuation, grammatical errors. They weren't checking for any of that. They were literally checking and only focusing. Their only job was to focus specifically on the plot, the characters, and the content of the story. So I was very specific with what I wanted and what I expected from my betas. And I think that is what helped me get the best feedback from them. And I was able to organize it in such a way that it was so glaring, which way I needed to go next. In the second batch of betas, not the second round, but the second batch of betas, they were given, there was only 10 of those. The first 5 were sent the entire manuscript as it was. The second 5 beta readers for the second batch of beta readers were given the revised chapters that had been read from previous rounds. So anyway, there's all different ways that you can do it. It's just really what's going to work for you and where you're at in your story and where you're also at in the revision process. So if you're sending out draft 1, I really suggest that you don't send out your first draft because that's pretty much known as your piece of crap draft. Nobody needs to read that. But, if you get to a point where you're really, really stuck and you don't have a critique partner, which is a CP, if you don't have one of those, then, you can use betas for specific reasons, to look for certain things if you let them know in the beginning what they're doing. They don't always have to have the entire manuscript. You can send it out in portions. It's best to send out the most polished version possible. But anywho, I'm getting off track again. But anyway, so that was pretty much my beta process. I did learn so very much throughout the beta process. I did figure out through the feedback that some of them didn't even read it. I'm not going to lie, I did have a few betas that the questions that they proposed on the open-ended comment section of each questionnaire, I asked for anything that stuck out to them that maybe, that wasn't covered in the questionnaire, anything that they could see as an issue or problematic that, I'd want them to handwrite it or type it or whatever, their initial thoughts or comments that didn't quite fit into the categories that I had listed. So anywho, with that feedback, and this is part of the kind of bad part of the betas that I had, was I realized through that process that some of the betas did not even read the story. They might have skipped around because they were able to answer certain things from the questionnaire, but on the open-ended comments, I had some betas that were saying, okay, how is this blah, 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 if so-and-so was at this place and so, then why did so-and-so do this, but they were literally confusing two different characters, and there was no possible way for you to confuse those two characters unless you had not read the book. So it really helps in the beta process once you get your feedback in from all of your betas to go over each and every comment section, go over each and every questionnaire, and kind of weed out the ones that that were not really serious. You want to look at your beta feedback and find the commonality. So if you sent out to 10 betas and say 7 of the betas were like, hey, in chapter 3, I noticed this, and it wasn't consistent with chapter 5. Or if you notice that a lot of them have issue with a certain character, then you know that you need to work on that character and either flesh it out more or give them better traits that, where they're more likable almost, or at least more interesting. But anyway, so I totally lost my train of thought there, guys. And I do hear my grandbabies are up, so I am going to have to cut this video short. But this was my beta process and my beta packet explanations to y'all, and I really hope that this video helped you. If it did, please give this video a thumbs up and comment down below what your beta process is, and maybe what else you might be interested in knowing about the betas, because I do have 2 more videos planned for this series. Let me know in the comments below what you're looking for, what questions you might still have that I haven't answered yet, and I would be more than happy to do a video on it. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Have a great day, and I hope this video helped. Thanks again. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!